Welcome to the Weekly Roundup podcast. This is a Bank Holiday Monday special. I'm delighted as always to be joined by Maria Thompson and Matt Brown. Guys, how are we doing?
Yeah, surviving.
Ivan. Good.
Yeah, not
Good.
bad.
It's obviously been a very busy week last week for sports, but we'll dive straight in to football. Obviously, it was Survival Sunday for Spurs in the relegation battle with West Ham. Um, See, confirmed that West Ham are relegated alongside Wolves and Burnley. Do you think obviously I'm going to be very biased in this, I'll ask your opinions for it. Do you think it's the right decision overall over the course of the season?
It's so hard to be like, yeah, it's the right outcome, or no, it's the wrong outcome. I think it's two sides that this season have just been so mediocre at best. That
So that's been quite nice to us.
well, yeah, that it's only right that at least one of the two teams got relegated, whether it's the right outcome that it was West Ham and not Spurs, or that it was vice versa. It's always going to be a big question, but yeah, it had to be one of the teams that just happens to be West Ham.
Yeah, I think obviously for me personally, being a Spurs fan, it's just been an atrocious season. Obviously, our win yesterday was, I think, our second win at home all season, which isn't good enough. When De Zerbi was appointed, I had my doubts. I wasn't 100% sure if he was the right man. But actually seeing him put a bit of passion into that squad and actually on the touchline, I think that helped obviously the Spurs fans in the stadium last couple of games at home. You saw the fans all outside the front of the stadium. I think they played a massive, massive part in there, and having some players back, like say the likes of James Maddison coming back, just for his experience and his passion in there. Kingsky as well. Obviously, some of the saves he's made last couple of games were match-winning saves. So I think, yeah, very tight to call. Obviously, I'm massively relieved it was Spurs that stayed up, but like you said, it could have been either or with how poor we've been, and probably the right decision that one of us did go down. But relief, but do feel a little bit gutted for West Ham. Obviously, they've got some very good players. You feel for like the likes of Jared Bowen, who's almost carried that side on his shoulders. What's going to happen next to him? How many of those players have got relegation clauses
Well,
in their
yeah,
contract? Um, and yeah, is there going to be a huge? They're going to have a huge rebuild. There's talks obviously with West Ham getting relegated as well. It's going to cost the taxpayer 2.5 million or billion pounds on the stadium. So financial implications massively throughout. But
yeah,
yeah, it was massively nerve wracking. Obviously, I watched the Spurs game. Obviously, kept a close eye on the West Ham game. Obviously, then winning 3-0 as well. And with how Spurs' season has gone, even like obviously being one up, I know we only needed at least a draw, but when a couple of those corners came in late doors and things like that, it was very, very nerve wracking. So, yeah, happy to stay up, but need a massive rebuild next summer. Need some more players coming in. Obviously, there was the Romero issue midweek as well. How do you feel about that? Obviously, Romero, club captain, heading to Argentina to watch his former club play, but then obviously seeing the backlash, probably came back with his tail between his legs a little bit.
I think he should have been there yesterday for sure.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
club captain, there's no excuse unless it was family related. There's no excuses to not be there
Mm.
because obviously with the high stakes that yesterday was, even if your fate had already been decided before yesterday, I still think you should have been there last game of the season. But for me, what was interesting yesterday travelling to Stratford was both sets of fans either sharing sob stories from the season or genuinely like wishing each other luck, which with two rival clubs in London, you don't see that often. So it was actually
Mm.
rather interesting being on the Lizzie line yesterday, watching the interactions between both sets. So
Yeah,
it was a weird it was a weird feeling, all sets of clubs being nice to each other yesterday. But equally travelling back yesterday as well. You could tell who was happy and who was depressed about the result. So
yeah, like I say, it's very interesting. But I think actually those interactions probably sums up
yeah,
both of our seasons. Everyone is so
exactly.
down and out and disillusioned with what has happened this season that actually they're like, well, at least it's over for a season.
Yeah,
Just like, although,
that was the general vibe of the underground yesterday, to be honest.
yeah. Matt, what do you think about the old Romero situation?
It's such a weird thing. I think the original story was that he was going back to Argentina for like injury
Yeah,
rehab,
rehabilitation, yeah.
which is fine. You know, that's understandable. It's the end of the season. But for it to then transpire that actually he's not going to be at Spurs' final game of the season. Instead, he's going to be watching his like boyhood club. It was all just a bit of an odd one. Um, yes, I don't really know what to make of it. In all honesty, if he's gone out there for rehabilitation and is then just so happening to be at the game, then fine. But I think there needed to be some clarity over whether he was going for rehab or to watch the game.
Yeah. I think they kind of contradicted themselves. Like initially it said that he'd gone to go watch the boyhood club, and then we sort of put out a statement to say, oh no, it's for rehabilitation. It was always going to be the case. And then next thing you know, he's back at the game yesterday. So yeah, it just sums it up. You can't be a club captain, and especially in the position we're in. But again, sums up the season of Spurs. There's never a dull day being a Spurs fan. But obviously, the rest of the Premier League, Arsenal had already been confirmed as champions earlier on in the week. Obviously, City lost yesterday anyway. How do we feel? Obviously, there's Arsenal fans who are delighted. Was it 22 years since they last won the league? Do you think obviously right outcome over the course of the season?
Yeah, I do. I think there's been a bit of a drop off from certain teams. Liverpool have been poor this season. Chelsea haven't been great. United sort of picked up a little bit later. City at times weren't as good as they've been in the past. They weren't as dominant as they have been in previous years. And I think Arsenal stepped up their game this year, and I think that's the real difference. And I think it's a credit to the club that they have allowed Arteta this long to rebuild and to get them back to where they feel that they belong. And I think not enough clubs or not enough big clubs allow managers that opportunity these days. I think a lot of clubs are too quick to sack managers, but I think Arsenal got it spot on by sticking with him, and it's clearly paid off.
You can obviously understand there's a lot of fans, myself included, probably, who are obviously unhappy, because it's Arsenal winning a league and you don't want your rivals winning the league whilst you're battling relegation. But I think it's probably in the manner that Arsenal have won the league. Obviously, Arsenal fans won't care. At the end of the day, it won't say on the trophy, oh, they won 1-0 20 times in the season or score penalties or blah, blah, blah. They won the league. That's the end of it. But I think, yeah, the dark arts have probably won this season with some of the corners and some of the decisions. But I guess sometimes you do need that little bit of luck on your side, don't you, to win the league. But yeah, obviously we wish them well. Very great teeth, I guess. They've got obviously another massive game in the Champions League final against PSG coming up. How do we think that one's going to play out?
I still think they'll do it. I think I think those dark arts, as we'll call them, I think will help. I think to an extent PSG haven't played a team like this Arsenal team in the way that Arsenal play. I think Arsenal will try and slow the game down to a style that suits them. PSG have obviously got some incredible players, but I think they will find themselves on a bit of a frustrating night, in all honesty. And I think Arsenal just have enough to nick it.
Obviously, again, busy weekend in football. The Championship playoffs the other day as well. Hull getting promoted, probably the right decision after obviously the Spygate issues. But Ollie McBurney coming up trumps 95th minute goal. Be interesting to see how Hull fare in the Premiership next season. But yeah, what did you guys think? Right decision, obviously, with what happened with Saints and Middlesbrough.
I mean, it wasn't exactly a classic of a playoff final. The first half was a real slow burner. It was, yeah, it wasn't a great watch, but I think Hull deserved the win. It, as you say, it will be interesting to see how they do next season. They need big investment over the summer, because otherwise it could be a real tough year for them. I mean, they are the first side to finish sixth in the Championship and win promotion since I think it's 2010. So they will need to find a new level, but you never know. I mean, I don't think anyone thought that Sunderland were going to come up and finish in the European places. So you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, good luck to them.
Yeah. Like you say, anything can happen. Like just going back to what you've just said, obviously with the European positions, obviously Sunderland, Bournemouth, obviously Chelsea completely missing out on Europe as well. It's been a bit of a crazy season with Liverpool's drop off as well. So I think a lot of the teams that have been promoted this season will probably look at the likes of Sunderland and Leeds and think, actually, we might be all right here next season,
Yeah.
but they've got to get it right. Like Sunderland haven't played like boring, negative football either, looking to shut out shop. Actually, they've played very good football. Yeah, they've been very difficult to break down. So, yeah, I think the likes of Hull, Ipswich, and Coventry will probably need to look at their models, won't they? But obviously, talking about kind of backtracking the Spygate situation, that I think it's still being investigated further, isn't it? Because it turns out that potentially they may have spied on 3 more clubs as well. So,
Yeah.
like you say, in the day and age of sort of analysis, and it's mad that people. I know, obviously, it said that it happens abroad and things like that, but Southampton obviously got a 4 points deduction, obviously eliminated from the final. Do you think that's a fair punishment for them? Obviously, you've got to feel for like the players and those who had no idea, obviously, of what was going on, have now missed out their chance on Premier League football. Do you think it was fair that obviously being kicked off and then 4 points deduction for next season?
I think being kicked out of the final was the right punishment. 4 point deduction feels a bit harsh, but I think the EFL and the FA want to make an example out of this situation and show to other clubs that it can't happen again. I mean, I mentioned, I think previously about Leeds, and at that point the rules were changed regarding it, following on from that. So, clubs are aware of what the rules are. I think a lot of the staff at Southampton told the manager that, you can't do it, it's not right. And the manager just went ahead with it anyway. I think the players, or a few of the players, were supposedly seeking legal advice because obviously they're missing out on promotion bonuses and everything like that. Yeah, it's such a tough situation for the fans as well. So, they've not done anything wrong, but they're being punished with it as well. I mean, I think it's the 3 games that they spied on were Middlesbrough, Ipswich, and Oxford. And
They lost all, didn't they? Yeah.
they didn't win a single one of those 3. So I don't really know what the
Well, they
spies
didn't.
were doing. In all honesty, it's a bit baffling, that one. But yeah, I don't think the story is anywhere near finished yet.
No.
It seems like it's just opened a massive Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Like I put some of the coverage on Saturday just for background noise, admittedly, but it literally sounds like they've just kicked off an almighty storm because look, why? The fans are going to be upset. The players are obviously understandably upset, as Matt said. Like, even if the club had told the manager not to do it, why would he go and do it? And it's kind of funny to me that obviously the 3 games that they did do it for, it would have made sense if they did do it those games and they came away with the win. but not even a draw or a win in that situation kind of just makes a mockery of the whole thing.
No, definitely, like you said,
It's
it's
just
opened up.
bizarre.
Yeah, it's obviously opened up a massive can of worms on there, but bizarre, bizarre. But we'll obviously see what happens next from it. This week also announced was Thomas Tuchel's England World Cup squad. Initial thoughts on his squad that he has selected?
Mind-boggling. I think that's the most polite answer that we can give.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
That says a lot.
I think obviously he's had a lot of heat, so we'll just quickly run through the squad that has been selected. So we've got Dean Henderson, Jordan Pickford, James Trafford. In defence, we've got Dan Burn, Mark Gay, Reece James, Ezri Konsa, Tino Livramento, Nico O'Reilly, Jarell Gonza, Jed Spence, John Stones. Midfield, we've got Elliot Anderson, Jude Bellingham, Ebreze, Jordan Henderson, Kobbie Mainoo, Declan Rice, Morgan Rogers. And then your forwards, you've got Anthony Gordon, Harry Kane, Noni Madueke, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Ivan Toney, and Ollie Watkins. So let's start with just the goalkeepers. So obviously Pickford will probably be your number one, Moni.
yeah,
Then Dean Henderson and James Trafford. I think I put Pope in my predictive squad in there. But I don't think you can really go too wrong. Dean Henderson done well with Palace, and obviously Trafford has only really played a couple of cup matches for City, hasn't he? But I think, yeah, be a good experience for him, and hopefully with goalkeepers you don't get too much juggling. Touch wood, obviously for no injuries, but defenders, I think overly it's not too bad. Obviously you've not got the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Maguire, Levi Cole, who was mentioned, and Luke Shaw. Obviously, that's a lot of experience.
mm.
I personally thought Maguire would have been in the squad. Um, so yeah, what do you think about some of the omissions defensively?
Yeah. I think the Maguire one's interesting. I thought he was guaranteed to go. I mean, he's not always the best defender at club level, but for internationals, I don't really remember him putting a foot wrong for England.
Yeah,
He's always been pretty solid, no matter what formation we've played either, whether it's a 3 or a 4. He's always been, pretty solid. He provides goals as well, and he comes with that experience. Luke Shaw, yeah, maybe he can feel a bit unlucky as well. I think he started 38 games for United this season, which is remarkable considering his injury records. Trent, yeah, I'm not as shocked. I think if you're going to take Trent, I think you almost end up deeming him as a midfielder
yeah.
because I think defensively he's not that great at times.
Mm.
But going forward, he can prove to be a really good option. He can chip in with plenty of assists and things like that. So, yeah, I'm not as shocked by that one, but possibly thought he'd still be on the plane as well.
Mm. I think obviously buzzing. You think like Dan Burns not been to a World Cup. Gay's had a superb season, obviously since joining City as well. Reece James, Chelsea, obviously he's had a very up and down, like injury plagued season as well. So I think for me
Yeah,
that's a really weird one. Konza again, I think has played very well. Livramento, obviously quite excited to see that one. Nico O'Reilly, I think for City, he's been unreal. Konza as well.
yeah,
Jed Spence, I think for me being a Spurs fan, a surprise because again, started off the season absolutely superb. Obviously dipped away a little bit. I think when Doggy came back and playing on the left, he was playing on the right, but obviously really happy for him. And then you've got John Stones, which I think Mr. Reliable. But
yeah,
again, I'm so shocked Maguire's not been picked, and kind of leading into the next segue of obviously midfielders with Jordan Henderson being included. See your face really. Jordan
yeah,
Henderson being included. I think if you pick Henderson for experience, then you have to pick Maguire.
Yeah,
Because actually, I think
100%.
footballing wise, I think Maguire offers you a lot more than what Jordan Henderson does. So, yeah, what do we think? for the midfielders. I'm just going to pull the pin off that grenade and let it go.
Much struggle.
I don't get it. I don't get this obsession with Jordan Henderson. He's just not good enough. I don't understand it. He has been mediocre for Brentford. He's not even like a first choice midfielder there. If we're taking him for experience, great. He's one of our most experienced players. It doesn't mean he's any good. I think we had a penalty shootout. I think it was the Colombia penalty shootout, and he missed his penalty, and he was the most experienced England player on the pitch. And just shows that experience doesn't really give you too much. I just think there's just better options.
Yeah,
Like,
when you look at who has been excluded, sort of, I know sometimes they can come under the forward line, but Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Jared Bowen, who's been, I know West Ham have gone down, but he was sensational this season. Adam Wharton, Morgan Gibbs-White. You just think like
Adam Wharton. Adam
yeah,
Wharton should be on that plane ahead of Henderson. Gibbs-White should be on that plane ahead of Henderson.
Yeah.
I should be on that plane ahead of Jordan Henderson. It's just ridiculous. In all honesty.
It's just like say like our midfielders that have been selected. Obviously, you got Elliot Anderson, who's been superb. Obviously, I can't disagree with that one. Jude Bellingham had a bit of an injury-plagued season for Madrid, but I don't think you can't not pick him for what he can.
You can't leave him out.
Yeah, you can't leave him out for what he offers you. Eze has been superb for Arsenal. Obviously, Henderson, Kobbie Mainoo's obviously had a resurgence for under United since Carrick's picked him, and obviously very happy for him, and he can change a game as well. Declan Rice has been sensational for Arsenal, and again very experienced. And Morgan Rogers, I think he's been superb for Villa. So you look at those and think all of those other selections, yeah, fine, but I think the Jordan Henderson one is the one that stings for him. So, and I think as well, he's going to have a bit of a monkey on his back now because he's been called out about it again for why has he been selected. So if he does get on that pitch, he's going to need to put in a hell of a performance each time.
The other thing that I can't really work out is you look at the options that we've got in midfield, and they are quite attacking players. Bellingham's very good on the attack. Rogers very good on the attack. Eze as well, of course. Henderson doesn't suit that system. If you are playing attacking midfielders and you want an attacking style of football, Jordan Henderson is not the answer. If you're looking to shut up shop and you want someone who's going to play it sideways and backwards, then fine. That's your answer. But with players like Eze and Rogers and Bellingham, you don't need Henderson in there. You've got Rice that can do the cover work as well as being able to push forward. Anderson's the same.
Yeah.
I just think that in that entire midfield section of the squad, Henderson is the odd one out in that he just doesn't offer that attacking option. And I think that's one of the big issues as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's just a very bizarre selection. And obviously the forwards, you've got Harry Kane, Noni Madueke, which I think is a bit of a surprise one for me considering he's been left out. Marcus Rashford, obviously really happy for him. He's done well for Barca. Saka, again, you can't not choose him. Ivan Toney, again, a very surprise selection. Whereas that one, and I've said it before, and no disrespect, but it's a bit of a farmers league he's playing in. And then Ollie Watkins, and I think which is a fair enough one. He's come back for Villa, scored a lot of clutch goals, but Anthony Gordon's also been selected, and I don't think he's torn up trees for Newcastle this season either. So, what do we think?
Do you know what? I don't mind the Gordon selection. I think no one really has torn up trees for Newcastle this season, but I think for England, I think he's been quite reliable when he's played. I think he's looked pretty good. Be interesting, he's got Livramento there, who's also his teammate at club level as well. So whether they can sort of link up a little bit as well. Madueke is an interesting selection. I don't mind it, but yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one, especially when you factor in that Cole Palmer's not there, Phil Foden's not there, Bowen to an extent as well. The Ivan Toney one, Again, I don't fully understand it. I know he scored 40 odd goals in the Saudi League, but
I think I would have as
you,
well.
yeah, you look at the quality of the opposition that he's playing most weeks. You know, how many of those goals are penalties as well? I don't know. I think that's possibly what he's there for. Is that his penalty taking is at a good level. So are we going to be getting to late stages of potential extra time games and saying, right, we'll bring on Ivan Toney so that he can take a penalty in the shootout? I think Harry Kane obviously is going to start every game because he has to. He's the best striker in the world.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins deserves to be his backup.
Yeah.
To an extent, maybe Danny Welbeck could have deserved a call up as well. I think he's had a good season for Brighton. But yeah, we'll just have to see what Tuchel wants to do. I mean, we've all obviously got our views, and he clearly disagrees with him. So we'll see how we get on.
Yeah, I think it's a very weird selection, like you say, with some of them. And yeah, you've got to feel for the likes of Bowen, I think, who's been superb. Foden, obviously, has had a very difficult season. Cole Palmer, I guess, to an extent as well, had a up and down season, very injury plagued as well for Chelsea. But I think Foden, Bowen, should put my teeth in, should be on that plane with his assists and things like that. So it's a tough one. And talking of obviously Foden and City, obviously it was announced during the week. Obviously, I think it got released early that Pep was leaving at the end of the season. 10 years at City. Obviously, there's the controversy about obviously the 115 charges probably still sitting over City and whether or not that is potentially plagued the decision or move forward the decision because he still had a year on his contract. But he's done incredible things with Man City, hasn't he? And it'd be sad to see someone of his experience and personality go from the Premiership as well.
Yeah, it's the end of an era, really. He has completely changed English football. I mean, before Guardiola came to City, League Two teams were just playing hoofball. Now you've got clubs at League Two level looking to pass it around and play it out from the back, and that's Pep's influence. You look at the way that he has moved City on from where they were, and obviously they were gaining success before he came in, thanks to Mancini, Pellegrini, and whoever else. But he took them to that next level. He has done incredible things with that club. I think it's over 20 trophies in that 10-year spell. It's just, I don't think we'll see anyone like it for a long time. He is one of the best managers, if not the best manager of all time, in my opinion. I think there was an article by Jamie Carragher about him being better than Alex Ferguson, and it's so hard to disagree. Ferguson did amazing things with United, but Pep's done it everywhere he's gone. His Barcelona team was incredible. His teams at Bayern Munich, absolutely superb, and he's done it again with City. And I think he's also helped develop some really good English talent as well. So he's helped us at a national level. John Stones is an incredible player thanks to Pep. Nico O'Reilly coming through, Phil Foden coming through. That's all thanks to Pep as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the good thing about him as well. He's had the money to spend, and they've had some incredible players that they've bought in, but he's never neglected to play those English players and help develop them with the likes of Foden and things like that as well. And obviously it's going to be crazy to see what happens next and who comes in next. There's talk, they're saying Maresca might come in, obviously former Chelsea manager. Massive shoes to follow. Is Maresca probably the right man to do the business for him?
I think to an extent, yeah. I think he was Pep's number 2 for a while, wasn't he, at City?
Yeah.
So he knows Pep's system, so he can still sort of follow on from that if he needs to. Obviously, he can bring in his own style as well. But he knows City, he knows the expectations. He didn't have necessarily the best time with Chelsea, but no one really does anymore. It's a bit of a poison chalice at the minute. But I think he'll be all right at City if he's the the next choice. I think they possibly would have looked at Alonso had Chelsea not got there sooner. But yeah, I think Maresca will be all right. I don't know if they'll win the title straight away. I think it'll be an interesting one next season. But I think he will. I think he'll do all right. I think they'll fare just fine.
Yeah, like I say, and I think almost they haven't got a massive amount of pressure because they didn't win the league this season. Yeah, they'll obviously want to try and do better, but I think the rebuild phase is probably on now for City, and they'll probably have to wait because there's talk that the 115 charges announcement's coming soon. So who knows? West Ham might not be relegated come the end of this season. But yeah, obviously massive time. World Cup coming up soon, so we'll build up to that as well. But this weekend as well leads me nicely into Glory and Giza boxing in Egypt at the foot of the pyramids. I don't know if obviously I know me and Matt were watching it, but I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures, Maria. It's absolutely,
I've seen a lot of them on TikTok and stuff. I mean,
absolutely.
it's unreal backdrop for anything, let alone boxing fight. I think I'd just be too distracted what's behind me, to be honest.
Yeah, obviously knowing a lot of people who were out there working there, it was very stressful for them. Obviously, I think they were still hammering in nails whilst people were probably still coming in. But what an incredible atmosphere, event, and venue for it. But great night of boxing as well. That backed it up as well. Obviously, we'll start off with probably the main card. There was obviously a huge prelim card, but the main card, you had Daniel Lappin versus Benjamin Mendes Tanny. Daniel Lappin was undefeated. Tanny was undefeated. Lappin was part of Usyk's training team as well, but he lost, got knocked out by Tanny as well, TKO, which was a huge surprise. But I think he got dropped a couple of times in the game and it wasn't his best performance. Then you had the Japanese star Mizuki Haruta, Ring Magazine's Female Fighter of the Year for 2025 against Egyptian-born Mai Solomon. Mizuki won by unanimous decision. Great battle between both women as well. I think Mai Solomon done really, really well to stay in with Mizuki. Unbelievable boxer as well. It's only the second time I've seen her sort of box. Just, yeah, really clinical, clean, in and outs were superb. But then one of my favourite fights of the night, Frank Sanchez against Richard Torres Jr. Sanchez absolutely folding Torres Jr. in half like a deck chair. I think we said it on the chat. Absolutely powerful with how long Sanchez has been out the ring for as well. Great knockout win. Obviously, we said it was a good one as well, didn't we?
Yeah, I was laughing at the chat for a bit, keeping up with the messages. I was just like, okay, I don't think I need to watch it to understand the humour.
Yeah, I think as well, obviously, boxing fans, always want to see a good knockout.
Yeah, but in
Obviously,
that style, I did end up seeing it on TikTok again, but it was it made me chuckle a little bit, which you can consider whether that's bad or good or not. But
yeah,
yeah,
I think as well for Frank Sanchez, who's probably going to be next for him. Be interesting to see, and what does Torres Jr. Where does he go next? Obviously, he was hyped as one of the next big American heavyweights in there, and obviously now he's going to have to rebuild. So we'll see what goes there. But then El Gato, Jack Catterall against Giasov. Interesting to see before the fight. In like obviously they have the fan percentages and stuff for who they thought was going to win. A lot of the fans had Giasov winning 74% to Catterall, which obviously I've watched a lot of Jack's fights. His last fight against Eko Esserman at Tottenham in November last year, brutal knockout of Eko Esserman, knocked him out the ring. And I think sometimes Jack doesn't always get the credit he deserves for what an incredible boxer he is. He should have been undisputed champ against Josh Taylor, and he's had to bide his time and wait for his moment. So obviously he was no longer with Bozy Ennis, training back in Liverpool now. But I think it's clinical performance from Catterall made Giasov. There are a lot of people saying Giasov wasn't on it, and maybe not. but I think Cattrall made him look poor. Jack's in and outs, obviously he's southpaw, very tricky fighter, but he was superb, looked attacking, dropped Gisov in the first or second round, didn't he? And just built on it as well. Wasn't too negative, did try and do it. Gisov, I think, done well to hang in there. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good fight, actually. I think Jack was brilliant. I think he, as I say, got that early knockdown, and I think just handled it really well from there on in. I think if as a neutral, I think really quite an entertaining fight and a good way to sort of carry on the evening of boxing.
Yeah, and obviously he won the WBA regular world welterweight title. Still waiting to hear whether or not that's going to be upgraded to the full title, but kind of waiting on what's happening with Rolly Romero. They're saying that obviously they want him next, so I think that'd be a great matchup. A huge step up for Cattrall as well, but again, we're waiting on Romero. Next up as well, Hamza Shiraz against Alan Begic. Obviously, it was a very one-sided fight. Lasted 2 rounds, didn't it? I think it was always going to be a massive ask for Begic against the likes of Shiraz, but obviously he's massive British fighter. Him stepping up as well to super middle as well has helped him. Obviously, he's still a young guy as well, still growing into his man body, as they say. But yeah, dominant performance. So excited to see what's next. But then the headline event, quite a few talking points. Obviously, Alexander Usyk and Rico Verhoeven, the king of kickboxing, coming up against the undisputed heavyweight boxer in Alexander Usyk. And it didn't start how a lot of people thought, and it didn't finish how a lot of people thought either. Obviously, your thoughts, Matt. We'll start with you on the fight.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, the fact that Rico is one of the best kickboxers around. He even from his ring walk, or well, actually he ran, but he just looked full of confidence. He looked so confident before the fight even started. Usyk didn't know how to handle him for the majority of the fight. He just didn't seem to be able to handle him. Rico was able to switch up styles. Usyk's footwork, which is normally incredible, was sluggish. He couldn't seem to really lay a glove on Rico. I think we've said it in other episodes about boxers boxing clever, and Rico did that. If you had put someone in front of the match and said, which one of these is the boxing champion, I don't think they'd have picked Usyk. And I think the decision to stop it when they did was ridiculous. You had, maximum of 5 seconds left. Either, let him be saved by the bell, or, as Rico kept saying, let him die on his shield.
Yeah.
I think to stop it at that point was absolutely ridiculous. Looking at the scorecards as well, I think they all had it a lot closer than it.
Yeah, they're looking at some of them that's been released. They had 2 draws and I think Rico up in 1, which I think is scandalous. Obviously, I think you could say obviously Rico was robbed. We don't know what was going to happen, obviously, in that 12th round. I think
but we wanted to see it. We wanted to see that 12th round.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of talk about fights being stopped too early, being stopped too late, and I think that obviously will play on referees' minds. But Rico wasn't getting a beating like in the Dubois Wardley fight. It wasn't that sort of beating, and there was a couple of seconds left. I think unfortunately you don't want to say it, but I think Usyk's legacy was being protected more than what Rico's health and safety was being protected in that fight. I think Rico boxed, like what you said, absolutely perfect game plan. So Peter Fury, obviously Rico's coach,
unbelievable.
His game plan obviously smothered. He used his weight on Usyk when he needed to, but he couldn't handle. He boxed very, very well as well. Like he's in and out, so his movement as well when he was attacking as well. And I don't know whether or not it's maybe Usyk's time out the ring, not massive amount compared to some. Obviously, his last fight was against Dubois. Is it his age? Obviously, he's 38 now. His father time caught up with him. Or a lot of people saying, obviously, Usyk's the heaviest he'd been in that fight. Was that why he was sluggish? I don't know. But yeah, I think Rico, that they've said, obviously, they've sent an appeal out for the victory as well. I don't think if they do look for a rematch, I don't think Usyk will take it. I think I don't know, is he always will he be as poor as what he was in that fight? Potentially not. But there's going to be a lot of people who will potentially want to, well, will maybe even avoid Rico now. There's seen a couple of people like Adelaide, and they're saying obviously would be a good fight for Rico. A couple of other fighters have called him out, but see after the fight, you had Ajit Caballel in the ring, see wanting to fight Usyk. Again, that's going to be a very dangerous performance, and you don't want to rule Usyk out after one performance. Obviously, he technically still got the win, and if they'd let the 12th round go on, he might have knocked out Rico, and then this discussion wouldn't be happening anyway. But you wanted to see it, didn't you? I think Rico deserved that 12th round, and I think I would have loved to have seen what would have happened. Would Rico have been able to recover? Because he was a bit wobbly, obviously, when Usyk was catching him and things, but yeah, it was nothing like the Wardley Dubois fight. So yeah, I think another refereeing decision, spoiling what was an incredible fight night as well.
Yeah, I think the referee got it wrong in the middle. I think the two that had it on their scorecards as draws, completely wrong.
Yeah.
I think Rico would have been ahead on the points, and I think he would have been ahead by some distance.
Yeah.
The 12th round would have been a really interesting one. I do think that Usyk was gaining momentum at the right time, and I think he probably would have got the knockout. But then that takes away all of this controversy. But we can all still sit here and say, Rico boxed really well. He did this, and this. Usyk didn't have the best night, still got the win. Whereas now it's Usyk got the win, didn't deserve it. Rico can feel robbed. Obviously, he's putting the appeal. I don't know about a rematch. I think there's a lot of things that need to be looked at. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that some people have neglected to look at is the fact that it was Rico that asked for this fight.
Yeah.
You know, he clearly isn't a man who's short on confidence in his own ability. He'd only had one previous fight before, and to then take on the world champion is just it's incredible, and he deserves a lot of credit for the performance that he put in, and hopefully we'll see him taking on some other big names.
Yeah, like Sam, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next and who he does fight next as well. I think, yeah, his only professional fight was in 2014 and he got the win, but I think he's experiencing kickboxing and the movement and things like that, and his size as well. He's huge. Will put him in good stead. So I'd like to see him maybe up against somebody like a Wilder. Would be really good, a good test for him. So we'll see what happens next. But yeah, unfortunately, sort of another refereeing decision spoiling what was an incredible fight night. But yeah, we move on to rugby. See, it was not this weekend before. Red Roses secured yet another Grand Slam. Their dominance on women's rugby internationally, sort of excelling, but a great tournament for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, they did look a bit hesitant against France, but they, in the second half, I don't know if you guys saw John Mitchell's halftime chat on socials, but a lot of positive reinforcement, and I think honestly that's what they needed to find their extra / old gear that we are used to seeing, and that's what helped them close it out. So with what John said, that kind of gave him the kick up the butt in a sense to actually lock in and get the job done. And it was nice to see, and honestly, it's nice to see that women's sport is continuously showing that they can compete at this level, which is great, to be honest. So it was lovely to see.
Yeah, I think they were absolutely superb. I think we said it in the pod before about obviously them leaking tries and things like that, and it was a little bit squeaky at times. But I just think, yeah, their experience and the talent they have in the squad, considering the injuries they have, were unbelievable. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go next. Obviously, a lot of new players being blooded into the squad because of the injuries. So again, increasing that squad depth as well is only going to make them even stronger as well. So, but there's a lot of obviously teams in the Six Nations. Obviously, Ireland had a really good tournament. Obviously, they've improved leaps and bounds as well. So hopefully, sort of the other crop of women's teams in the Six Nations are going to continue to improve to try and push England, because I think that's what they need to sort of continue to be great as well. See, we've got the Premiership Rugby as well coming up to, I believe, last couple of games of the season, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who do we think is going to finish in the top four? Obviously, there was a couple of crazy results over the weekend. What do we think?
I mean, Northampton, Bath, Leicester, we've obviously got the top three. Fourth place, I think, could still be Exeter. But at the same time, Saracens, a bit like Man City doing the football, they're finding that momentum at the right time. I mean, I was at Allianz Stadium for Harlequins, Exeter. Exeter's second half performance was dreadful. They absolutely capitulated. And listening to Rob Baxter after the game, he said they needed to learn a lot from that performance. They needed to regroup. I think having this weekend just gone as like a rest period as well will help them. But it'll be really interesting to see how these last couple of rounds play out. Saracens have got Harlequins this weekend at StoneX, which is always a really interesting game. Obviously, two fierce London rivals. Quins obviously looking to secure the top 8 as well, so they get Champions Cup for next season. So there's a lot of interesting scenarios there. Bristol, I think, have managed to somehow throw away their chance of the top 4. They were decimated by Northampton. It wasn't even close. So it will be really interesting to see what these next couple of rounds have in store. I still think it will be Exeter. I think they'll just edge it. But you can never write off Saracens and Mark McCall.
I think their experience will probably put them in that good stead, won't they, to secure that last spot. But yeah, no, it'd be a good couple of weeks. Like I say, we've also got the Champions Cup final, Leinster Bordeaux. What do we think about that game?
I mean, it's nice to. I didn't get to watch it, but it's nice to actually see other clubs other than Leinster actually go back to back, and in the style that they went back to back in. And it just proves that French rugby again is on the high and at a high level. So it's really nice to see. But yeah, it's nice that someone else can actually climb to the top and not have the familiar faces there, which is
Yeah, freshens it up a bit as well, doesn't it?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think French rugby at the minute's on a bit of a different level. I mean, Bordeaux comfortable winners against Leinster. Montpellier absolutely hammered Ulster on Friday night in the Challenge Cup. I think Billy Vanapola scored for Montpellier, showing that he can still do it at the top level. And then, Louis Barry getting, I think it's 2 tries against Leinster. He's just unbelievable.
So good, isn't he?
You look at that, the depth that France can have in their squads. It's scary.
It's pretty terrifying for sure.
And then you've got it's nice to see another club winning it and going back to back, but it's also nice that it's not necessarily the French club that you might expect.
Yeah,
I think we look at the squad that Toulouse have, and think they'll just wipe the floor with everyone. And,
Yeah.
a few years back it was Toulon, and now Bordeaux seems to have stepped it up and are flying in Europe, which is great to see as a neutral, and it does feel a little bit nicer that they beat a side like Leinster, who have so much European pedigree and have that expectation that they're going to go in and have it relatively easy, and they just couldn't handle them on Saturday. And yeah, it's really quite an interesting result.
Yeah, it kind of leads us on, obviously, talking about French dominance and sort of, obviously their power that they have. Obviously, their England squad was announced this week as well. Obviously, I think there's not too many shocks, but there's the likes of sort of Van Rensburg, who has been selected. Obviously, you don't want to diminish, obviously, what a player he is, but he's coming in over the likes of English born, obviously, not just obviously on where he lived and things like that for a couple of years. And obviously, England have reaped the benefits of a lot of those players with the likes of, you mentioned earlier, like the Vunipolas and things like that, and maybe all the way to Dylan Hartley as well, South African born and things like that. So you have to be very careful about it. But what do we think about the squad selection?
I think overall the squad's pretty solid. I personally don't like the Van Rensburg call up. I think he is an aging player. I think he's a good centre, but I think there are other options that should be given the call ahead. I think, Max Ajomo, Ollie Lawrence, Ollie Hartley at Saracens as well, probably all deserve to be there ahead of Van Rensburg. It was really interesting hearing the opinions of a few other people at Allianz Stadium. I think before the squad had been announced, it looked likely that Van Rensburg was going to be involved, and there were a couple of people that said, the Vunipolas grew up here, although they weren't born here. They grew up here from the age of, I think it's about 7 or 8. They'd been here for so long. Their dream probably was to play for England or Wales, where they spent time as well.
Yeah.
Billy actually has recently said that he won't accept a call up to Tonga because it gets in the way of younger Tongan players making their way through. And the person I was speaking to at Allianz Stadium said, Van Rensburg, he's done his time here, but his dream won't have ever been to play for England. His dream would have been, from a young age, to be a Springbok, and ultimately he hasn't been good enough to play for the Springboks. So he's now getting in to our squads, not really based on anything other than the fact that he's lived here for 5 years. I think it's just a wrong selection call. But if he gives his all for the Red Rose, then so be it. Good luck to him, and we'll see how he fares. But yeah, there's other options that I would have looked at ahead of him.
Yeah, I think, like say, you don't want to take away for what he's done, but I think all these discussions will always be had. But I guess if he pulls out an absolutely storming performance, I think it'll all probably be forgotten. So it's a difficult one. But leading into obviously the British summertime, it's cricket season. The T20 has begun. So I was at Essex on Friday night. Disappointing result. Disappointing bowling and fielding performance, I think. Obviously, when they put 191,
Essex.
I just see when they put 191 on the board, I thought that's not a bad score. Pep's obviously done well, but just Sam Cook being injured as well, fractured his wrist in training, so we're going to be without him for a while, which I think kind of sums up. Yeah, I think we looked very limp in our bowling attack. Vian Mulder, obviously, his first T20 game for Essex, got absolutely pumped, 36 off his 2 overs as well. So I think that's a nice English welcome to the T20 league. But Essex finished bottom of the group. last season. They've obviously changed the format. There's 3 different groups this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But some good games over the weekend from Friday night. Obviously yesterday, Saturday and Sunday as well. But hopefully it'll be a good tournament. The England ladies done well against New Zealand. Obviously, a couple got rained out, didn't they, as well? Also announced that Nat Sciver-Brunt's going to miss the upcoming tour as well with Carter, which I think captain, her experience in the fields with the bat is going to be massive for England as well, losing them. But put on some good performances. Lauren Bell looking good as well. What do you make of some of the performances so far?
I think Lauren Bell's been exceptional. I mean, the first ball of the second T20 to get a wicket straight away, I think set the tone. I think her time in India has really helped her up her game as well. I mean, she was a fantastic player prior to that, but I think a recent time out there has helped her as well. I mean, we've got some brilliant players, but yeah, at the same time, Sciver-Brunt not being there is a big loss for the experience, the leadership that she brings as well. So it'd be interesting to see how we fare from here on in. But yeah, hopefully leading into the World Cup, we seem to be in a relatively good place. So long may that continue.
Yeah, like I say, with the World Cup, home World Cup as well, heading in. Hopefully, yeah, we've got a good mix of experience and youth in the squad as well, which I think is good. But I think, yeah, losing that is going to be massive. But hopefully she'll be able to be sort of in and around the squad as well, just given that experience in the dressing room as well. Also, next week we have the England men's team. They've got the tour of New Zealand.
Yep.
Be interested to see how we fare against New Zealand. New Zealand obviously haven't been tearing up trees really, but England have had a couple of up and down games. Obviously, Ben Stokes looks to be fit for it, but Jofra Archer's still going to be out for the first 2 tests, I think, in the IPL. And I think we discussed it last time. Obviously, no Zach Crawley, no Ollie Pope as well. So it'd be interesting to see how some of the young guns, Amelia Gay does coming in as well. How do you think we'll get on?
It's going to be a really interesting few tests. I think, we've got a few new players in there. So bedding them in will be good. I think looking at the experience we've got, Stokes being fit, that helps. I don't know necessarily whether Archer not being available is necessarily that big of a loss. I mean, he obviously is a brilliant bowler, but I also think his injury history is a bit of a concern as well.
Yeah.
I also think, the power and the speed that he bowls with, you can probably get a couple of overs out of him and then he's sort of a bit done because it does take so much out of him. So, yeah, I think we'll fare all right. I think for me, it's just about making sure that this squad is getting to a place where we want them to be, not necessarily about the result. Obviously, it'd be great to go out there and win. But if we can put in some good performances, blood those new players to the squads, and just look better than we perhaps have done. And obviously New Zealand haven't been at their best. So it'd be interesting to see which of the 2 sides can come out on top. But yeah, I think it's more, for me, this series is more about performance as opposed to result.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's about blooding in those new players. Obviously, James Rowe smashing it around with his brother in the T20 over the weekend as well.
They were superb. They were so good to watch.
Yeah, and I think with what's Bazball, I think he's the perfect sort of player for them. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of James Rowe we see if obviously he does start, how he gets on, like Ryan Ahmed and things like that coming in as well. Yeah. So I think you're exactly right. It would be about putting in the performance, potentially, rather than necessarily the result. Obviously, you want to get the win, but it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, we'll look forward to that. Hopefully, the sun will continue so we don't get any washouts. So I'll probably put the jinx on that one, but sorry, guys. Um, and leading into a very exciting netball season as that is coming in to its final couple of weeks. Maria, I'll let
Yeah,
you lead
so
on this.
this weekend actually is the final of the normal rounds, and the top four are playing each other, which is stressful enough as it is, considering I have an interest in two of the four. Um, and it is actually quite tight at the top because you've got 2 points between the top three. So it's whoever wins their games essentially gets to go in the major semi, which if you win that one, straight to the final. If you don't, you've got another chance of getting in. But this past weekend, yeah, we'll start with yesterday's. Another extra time game for Pulse. It was, admittedly, it was slightly messy, bit scrappy, but with two other extra time games that they've won this season, they just find a way to get it done. Um, and it, it was a bit hot in the copper box, but the win certainly helped them out afterwards. I do feel a little bit heartbroken for Dragons because they did put on a pretty damn good performance. But ultimately, Pulse just find the extra gear and extra time. That one goal difference at the end, even with extra time. So Dragons weren't giving up without a fight, which was really nice to see because they've confirmed the fifth spot, which is their highest finish for quite a long time, which is, I guess, a neutral in that sense. It's nice to see the Welsh side actually come up and improve so much this past season. And I also think that's partly down to who they've got in their shooting end with Neve McCall coming in, being the only Scot mixed in with a Welsh and South African contingent. I think her ability to just take the 2 pointers has made a massive difference. The other game from yesterday was also a shock result because Panthers came away with a win against Mavs, which I haven't caught up yet, and I'll do that later on. But they won their game by one. So with two games this season that they've won, both against Dragons and Mavs now, you can see that they're building, but it will take a little bit more time to gel because they've essentially got a brand new squad this season. Again, being their second season, I kind of think it was a little bit controversial to completely wipe the slate clean and start from fresh, but I'm hoping that after their last game this week and then rebuilding over pre-season, I think if they tighten up, it'll be a good side. But Friday night was a little bit disappointing with Thunder Forest because Forest obviously came away with that win against Loughborough, which it was really lovely to see, but they failed to capitalise on it, and Thunder just do what Thunder does best at this stage of the season and smash it out the park. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting this weekend because Thunder are away at Loughborough, and then Forest have got Pulse at home. And I do think the Forest Pulse game will be tighter because that game originally went into extra time. Yes, Pulse ultimately then wiped the floor in extra time with the super shot, but I do think Forest do stand a good chance. But we'll just see how it goes and how well the stress levels will cope.
Yeah, mainly just your stress levels.
Yeah, yesterday was not great. I'm glad my Apple Watch no longer exists, personally.
Yeah,
The heart rate would not have been pretty.
no. But again, like I say, exciting last game of the normals for it's the
Yeah, yeah,
weekend. So
last round, which I don't want it to be over, but it's not that long until comp, so I can live for another month or so.
yeah, okay. But obviously it's been a pretty crazy time in the F1 as well. I don't know, Matt or Maria, if you want to lead on some of the F1 results and some of the headlines on that.
It was a bit nuts from the Mercedes side because for once, for me, it was quite enjoyable to watch them fight it out. Um, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Rosberg Hamilton era, to be quite honest, because it started to get that feel about it, and especially with the race yesterday. It was actually a pretty good race. Yes, George Russell's retirement from the race was a bit of a shock, but at the same time, it was amusing in that sense because they were basically switching at the front constantly, and then George just stopped. It was a bit like, hang on, what's going on? But it'll be interesting from the Mercedes perspective. But another good one for Lewis, and obviously a lot of social media saw that his mum was there with him, and quite frankly, that's 3 races. That's 2 races out of 3 she's been to. He's got podiums. So there's a joke going around that we set up a GoFundMe account just to make her go the rest of the season with him. So
No, I mean, I think it was a rough afternoon for George Russell, a rough afternoon for Lando Norris, obviously, as the champion. As Maria said, it's nice to see the two drivers at the front actually fighting each other and actually racing. I think when it was McLaren last year with Piastri and Norris, it was a lot of Piastri's leading the race, Piastri wins the race, Norris is leading the race, Norris wins the race. Was with this Mercedes team, they actually seem keen on actually racing and fighting each other for the wins. I mean, Kimi Antonelli's been sensational this season. I think yesterday it felt like we were seeing the Lewis of old.
yeah,
He was almost like it was back during his prime in that Mercedes, and he's finally finding himself in that Ferrari now. They're looking better this season than I think a lot of us thought that they perhaps would. A few teams still have a few bits to work on. I think Red Bull will be disappointed with how they're doing. Although obviously Max got a podium yesterday. It made me laugh that Isaac Hadjar got, I think it's 20 seconds worth of penalties.
Yeah, it was like 20, 30 seconds. Yeah.
But he was able to
still got fifth.
Yeah, he was able to serve them in the pit lane and still came out 15 seconds ahead of the car behind him. It's absolutely incredible, some of the gaps between these drivers. I think at one point, you had cars that were being lapped near enough by the car in front of them, and it's just incredible. So hopefully the rest of the season will be as entertaining as what I think the opening few races have been. And next one is Monaco, which is always a great race in my opinion. Such a historic track. I mean, you can't overtake to save your life, but it's interesting nevertheless. So,
Yeah, you got to find the right moment for that one. So
yeah, he's got to line up as pitting, really.
Yeah, pit stops and qualifying is the main gist of it. And history shows us that you qualify well, you finish well. So
Yeah,
the top 4 teams will be wanting to get, front row at least minimum. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
yeah, can't wait.
Well, I think that is us for this week's pod. See a lot to discuss from the Premiership, boxing, rugby, cricket. So, no, it's been a good one. We will be back on later on in the week, potentially for our Friday night roundup. But no, thank you so much, Matt, and thank you, Maria.
No problem.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a good week.